So I thought I might start with painting you a picture of a day in a life in a CEO or CFO of not-for-profit organisations that I work with daily. So imagine you have finite financial resources to realise your not-for-profit's vision. You're struggling to attract and retain top talent because of the attractive compensation schemes offered by for-profit organisations. You rely on the goodwill of a large volunteer base who sometimes have the experience that you need and sometimes don't, or sometimes they do but not enough time to dedicate to you. You measure the success, or your measures of success are much more complex rather than just shareholder value and return on investment. You've got complex stuff like social return on investment. You have a board of directors who have extensive experience in the for-profit sector, but not as much experience on a not-for-profit board. And as a result, sometimes don't appreciate the unique challenges, nuances, and complexities of running a not-for-profit organisation. Welcome to the life of a CEO, CFO, and COO of a not-for-profit organisation. It's enough to make you want to pull your hair out, and it's what they deal with on a daily basis. So, for corporate governance to be truly effective for a not-for-profit organisation, I think what it truly must do is appreciate the unique role and challenges of a not-for-profit. Appreciate that the same approach that works for a for-profit might not always work for a not-for-profit, and that the key to successful governance is, in the words, the right amount. You need the right amount of governance to ensure that your not-for-profit organisation isn't overburdened with the unnecessary or too much process and measures, because remember, they have finite resources that they need to use as effectively as possible to achieve greater social outcomes, but you need to have enough process and business rigour to ensure that they effectively utilise their finite resources to achieve greater social outcomes. Because remember, that is really what they're setting out to achieve. And all at the same time, they need to give their board the right amount of information, sufficient and appropriate information for them to discharge their responsibilities and effectively govern their organisation. It's a hard task. I think one of the keys, though, is to get this right, you really need to start with understanding the vision. The vision for a not-for-profit organisation must be clearly defined and must articulate their aspirational dream objectives of what your not-for-profit organisation wants to achieve. So I'd ask you, how many of you know your not-for-profit organisation's vision? How many of you reflect on this on a monthly basis and keep it front of mind when deciding on making decisions that affect governance? Because without clear understanding of a not-for-profit's vision, it is actually hard to effectively perform the role of governance. You need to really understand what it is your not-for-profit organisation is trying to achieve, why it's different to the 600,000 other not-for-profits that exist in a crowded market. And then you need to use that vision and keep it at the front of your mind when you're thinking of governance measures, KPIs and metrics, activities and operations, to ensure that everything that your management team is doing on a daily basis really helps your not-for-profit to realise that vision. So one thing I'd suggest is when you go back today, I want you to look at your not-for-profit's vision. I want you to ask yourself the question, does it talk about what you do or why you do it? I see too many not-for-profits that only talk about what they do. And what I'd recommend you do, and I do this with a lot of not-for-profit organisations, is watch this talk by Simon Sinek. It's a TED Talk. Has anyone heard of TED Talks? Ideas that shape the world. They're brilliant, equally relevant to business as it is to not-for-profits. There's a brilliant TED Talk by a guy called Simon Sinek, and it's about how great leaders inspire action. And I always ask not-for-profits to watch this when they're reflecting on their vision. And what he says is great leaders, great causes, great movements always start with the why. If people know why you do something, they will follow you. It's the same for a not-for-profit, and it's actually the most important thing, because your vision must speak to the hearts and minds of the people that you are your stakeholders that you're trying to resonate with. And it's more complex because you've got a large group of stakeholders, from donors who you're competing for their limited dollars, beneficiaries who you're trying to help, and then boards, management, and employees, because if they believe in what you believe in, they will help realise that vision. So a clearly defined vision is the key. It is the key, and it's also what you need to do is reflect on that regularly and keep it front of mind, because what it will do is help you put the right governance decisions, metrics in place to realise your not-for-profit's vision and help you achieve greater social outcomes. Once you've articulated the vision, the next thing is getting the right information. I see too many not-for-profit organisations inundate their boards with large volumes of information, and sometimes information that's not relevant. And the truth is, and with the Centro decision proves this, that ultimately, though, the responsibility is that of the boards to manage both the volume of the information and the way that information is presented. So what I recommend often for boards that we work with is work with your management team of your not-for-profit organisation to decide what information should be included and omitted from the board reports, what needs to be upfront versus background and supporting information, and what format that information should be provided in. Wads and wads of Excel papers does not suffice. You are the time-poor professional. You probably sit on multiple boards. You've got a full-time job. You need the right amount of information without being overburdened with detail. So some of the things that we include when we work with boards is, and we really say that they should present this, is the month-to-date versus year-to-date. Have a comparison, budget versus actual. That budget was prepared for a reason. It needs to be reflected on monthly. Actual versus prior year. You've usually factored a percentage of growth. Are you comparing it to the prior year to see that? Set a variance threshold. Explain the variances that are greater than those thresholds. Traffic light reporting. I don't see it utilised enough. Red, green and amber. Highlight the performance. For the red items, what is the reason for that poor performance? What are the actions that are going to take place to improve that performance? Visualization, more graphs and charts. It gives you the right information really quickly. The key things, I'd say, total revenue, that's the key to sustaining your operations. Employment costs, it's a key lever that you can change if you keep an eye on it. Cash is king. The number of not-for-profits that don't measure their cash or keep an eye on their cash enough. And then KPIs and metrics. The Charitable Fundraising Act, if you've got an authority to fundraise, those metrics that it specifies are really important. I see too many who prepare it at the very end when the audit report's due. Those will help you measure the effectiveness of your fundraising initiatives. Social return on investment, it is a key buzzword, and the more astute donor will ask you, what is the social return on investment? And I know the Centre of Social Impact here in Australia is really leading the way in thinking around this. So what I'd say in closing for that is too much and too little information is not an excuse that will hold in court, as proved by the Centro decision. So make sure that you work with your management team to get the right information. And then lastly, impact your not-for-profit organisation. Remember the reason you joined that not-for-profit. The vision, what it stood for, it somehow resonated with you. How will you utilise your skills, expertise to impact that not-for-profit? Because when I speak with not-for-profits, I often choose them, be very selective about who you choose on your board. So all of you who are on a board have been chosen for a very specific reason, and I think it's keeping that in mind. The truth is we live in uncertain times, volatile change and constant changes, and I'd encourage you to really encourage innovation, thinking outside the box, challenging convention, keep your not-for-profit ahead of the curve. Some of the common trends, utilisation of social media in terms of operational capacity, it's the easiest way to create a presence larger than your reality, but not many not-for-profits are utilising it as effective as it can be utilised. Financial sustainability, looking at how you can really have a diverse and broad range of revenue streams, and outsourcing functions that are not core. These are the kinds of decisions that, with the right information and with a constant thought on your vision, can really help you put your not-for-profit ahead of the curve to achieve greater social outcomes. Thank you.